Everybody has a different way of going about their prepping. One of the big things is bugging out or bugging in. Just did a video on bugging out, some pros and cons about it. Me personally, I'm more of a bug in person, and I want to talk about why I think that. So stick with us, check out the video, I would appreciate it, and let's get started. Well, some people bug out, some people bug in. I want to talk about these a little bit. I just put a video out about bugging out. This one, I want to do a video about bugging in. Some of the pros and cons, what I think about it. Watch it to the end. May or may not get something out of it. Hopefully you do. Hopefully it lets you think about something. So let's get started. All right, so bugging in. I am on team bugging. Why do I think that? Let's talk about some pros and cons about it. There are some definite big cons that need to be thought about, considered, and prepared for. But first of all, let's start off with the pros. One of the biggest thing is, this is where I have everything. It's my home. I have all my preps here, I have my defense here, I know my land, I know my house, I know ways that I could clear my house if I need to. I've ran through that scenario, at least in my head. That's a good thing. For that, you have a little bit of a home field advantage. You're gonna know where to go in defense. You're gonna know how to maybe get a little bit of a leg up on somebody that's gonna be causing problems. Another thing is security. If you want to keep tabs, keep an eye on anything that might be going on around your house, your apartment, property, anything like that, you are going to be able to do that and set an infrastructure in place to be able to do that. I don't have much on my land because there are so many holes, which isn't a good thing. Something that could be a con, I guess, but there would be no way to put any sort of surveillance on the land that I have. So I do have a few trail cams. That's going to be in After Effects. I might be able to find out who's doing something, who's intruding on my land, who's trespassing, but it's not going to stop the act as it is. But you can do it, especially if you are in a suburban neighborhood, you're in an HOA neighborhood, apartments, anything like that. You can buy cameras pretty cheap on Amazon, probably Temu. Who knows what you're going to get for that. I shouldn't even say that name on here. Screw China. But you're able to get surveillance in place. You can get stuff that link up to your phone to where you can get an alert if something's going on. A lot of different ways to do it, but you can actually put some surveillance in. Another thing is defensive protection by staying home. You can board up your windows, you can board up your doors. You can put reinforcements where you're going to be living, where you're going to be staying. The critical point is when you're going to be asleep. That is going to be when you're at your most vulnerable state. So wherever you are, you can reinforce that area to make it more difficult for somebody to be able to break in, for somebody to be able to get to you, which is quite important. So keep going. Another thing is that's where your preps are. If you're prepping, doesn't matter where you are. Everything is here. If you go bug out, you're going to have to transport everything to another location. When you're bugging in, it's all here. Now, you can even take it to the extent to where if you wanted to go out in your backyard, bury some supplies, some food, bottled water, things like that, bury in containers underground, you would be able to do that. Now, I don't really do that type of thing, because that's going to be a bug out situation where you might have to come back for supplies when somebody took over your house after the fact. And it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, I mean, if you're just trying to hide something, go bury it somewhere out in a national forest, anywhere you want. But when it comes to making sure that supplies are not taken from you, yeah, that's going to be a hard deal. But you have control over your supplies when you bug in. You know where everything is, you know how to get to everything, you know how to use everything. So that's definitely a big pro for it. Now, another thing is you're comfortable. So especially if you have children, young children, family with you, it's going to be important to make sure everybody is as comfortable as possible. Now, when shit hits the fan, anxiety is going to be up, stress is going to be up, uncertainty is going to be up. All these things are going to be coming into play mentally that can crumble your whole plan. And you want to keep a cool head. You definitely want to keep a cool head in hard times to make sure everything keeps flowing the way it's supposed to flow according to your plan. Now, keeping comfortable, keeping things familiar is going to be very important. It's going to be an important chess piece in that game to do your best to make sure that you're successful at it. Yeah, definitely being in a comfortable atmosphere, I think, is very important. You don't want to be in a strange place. You're not going to sleep. Yeah, it goes on and on. But keeping comfortable 100%. Another thing is I want to emphasize on even more is you have all of your stuff here. I have a lot of preps up on the top of my garage. I have my garden tools. I have all my self-defense, all my ammunition. I have machetes back on the wall. I have all this stuff to give me a leg up on somebody else. So, and just survival in general. The more assets you can have in your possession, the better off you're going to be. Bugging in is going to maximize that. Yes, I hold very high importance in that. Now, I might bounce back to a couple of the pros as I think of them, but I'm just going off the top of my head here. As you guys know, I don't have like scripts or anything like that. I just come on the camera and BS with you. So, cons. The biggest con, the biggest thing that would push me towards bugging out, the biggest thing that I would fear in a bug-in situation, the biggest thing that I would worry about when my life may be threatened, when my quality of life might be threatened, when there's social unrest, when nuclear bombs go off, all these situations is this, and this is important. As I said, you have a home field advantage being at home. You also have a huge disadvantage on planning. So you're going to be going about your everyday life. You're going to be doing your cooking. You're going to be scrubbing your underwear out in the front lawn. Doing whatever you're going to be doing in an SHTF situation while you're bugging in. You're going to be doing your best to tend to your garden. You're going to be doing your best to tend to animals, to doing all these things. Meanwhile, somebody that wants to do you harm is planning. They can sit out, survey everything. They can sit out and learn your schedule, learn your routine, and they have a huge, huge advantage to be able to take you out. Now, I'm not going to go to the far extreme, but I know for a fact if I wanted to scope out a situation, if I wanted to scope out doing bad things to a household, I could figure it out in a week, definitely. Now, if somebody's getting low on food, they know that they have to come get some food. They're not going to pick you because you're a prepper. They're going to pick you because of opportunity. So keep that in mind. I don't really think it matters that much whether people think you're a prepper or not a prepper, if they know you're a prepper, for certain circumstances at least. But I would have a huge advantage by staking a place out and making a move, as well as anybody else. Now, I said I'm not going to go to extremes. If I was to stake out, let's say, a special forces person or law enforcement even, or somebody that just has extensive training on defense, it's going to be very difficult. If there's one person, yeah. If there's two or three people, it's going to become substantially more difficult. But just for the average Joe, just for the 999,000 out of a million people that don't have those capabilities, it's going to be pretty easy. So having some sort of defense on your land, on your front yard, planning to where one person will stay up, one will sleep, and you switch schedules, which would be absolutely miserable. Probably won't last very long. But you're going to have something in place if you think that somebody might be staking you out. If you think people are paying attention to the smells that are coming from your house and things like that. So that is a major disadvantage. Another disadvantage kind of goes along with that, to where if you're going to be coming and going, if you're going to be going out to get water from a stream, if you're going to be going out to get supplies, if you're going to be going out to cut down trees for firewood, anytime you have to leave your house, you're going to stand out. Now, I think, and it's just my opinion, that once we get into a hunker down state, anybody that's outside is going to be a question mark. Anybody that is traveling around, walking, driving, riding a bike, paying attention to something, whether it's a house, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's a hole, digging, water, anything like that, you're gonna stand out. And like I said in a previous video, is there are eyes everywhere. If you think that you are going completely unseen, you might want to think about that again. There are eyes just about everywhere. Yes, if you are out in the middle of Wyoming between the two major freeways and there isn't anybody for 50 miles, you got a pretty good chance of being completely secluded and nobody knows that you're there. If you live in Indianapolis, that probably isn't going to be the case. Even me, I'm out here in the country on a homestead, away from just about everything. I'm about 45 minutes from a city. The closest small city is about 15 minutes, and I am straight. You got the freeway here, I'm over here, you know. There are eyes everywhere. In fact, I have a lookout. Funny enough, which could be a pro and a con, I have a lookout. It's about 30-40 acres away from me. That is technically a city park, but you have access to use that as a lookout in a shit hit the fan type situation. Now, the whole community knows about this, and the whole community may regulate, use it in different ways, but I think it would be a community thing here. But anyway, eyes are going to be watching you. So if they can see you leaving, if they can see you going out to do things, do chores, do missions, or whatever you want to call it, they're going to see you come back home. They're going to see how you work. They're going to see what things you are getting. They're going to see what interactions you're having out there. And it's not going to take very much to figure out if you are thriving, getting along, hurting, or about to die. So I think that's how people are going to judge what they should move forward with as far as attacking a house, taking lives, stealing property, anything like that. Criminals are going to take the path of least resistance, and they are almost always opportunist, and it is most definitely going to be opportunist crimes when shit first hits the fan. You're not going to be fighting organized crime. A lot of people talk about that. That's not going to be the case. You're going to be fighting opportunists. Definitely as a con, you're going to have to be very careful when you leave your house. You're going to have to think about what you're doing and maybe deceive a little bit of what your goals actually are, which kind of goes into the whole gray man theory, wear clothes that are bigger than what you are to make you look like you're losing weight, and that's where that all comes in. So that is definitely going to be a con when it comes to bugging in. Now, if you're bugging out, nobody really cares what you look like. That one interaction that you're going to come across is going to be over very quickly, or you're going to make a friend for life. It's kind of going to go one way or the other. Most likely it's not going to be a positive outcome when you're bugging out, but bugging in, you're going to have to pay attention to these type of things. One more thing when it comes to bugging in is you're going to know people in your area. Now, I do think that community is going to come into play. I saw this when 9/11 happened, and it is going to happen again. We are Americans, we are compassionate, we are empathetic. It's going to happen. I don't care how much you think you're going to go Rambo bound or in urban warfare or something like that. people are going to come together, and there is power with numbers. So as you're bugging in, you are going to have your immediate, maybe it's your street, maybe it's a part of your street, maybe it's your apartment building, maybe it's your community, maybe it's your whole city if you live in a small enough city. I got 600 people that live in my city. Is everybody going to get on board with it? No, there's going to be a lot of criminals in there and stuff as well, but coming together with other people to help out is going to be important. Just for instance, the street that I live on, we have 7 houses. We have a couple houses off in the distance and things like that. So I think 15 of the immediate houses could get on board with kind of a neighborhood watch type thing. Especially if you have communications, if cell phones are still up, you can communicate threats that are coming into the area, things that are happening, give people a heads up, and they're going to be able to do the same for you. So you're not going to get that bugging out into the woods. You're not going to get that bugging out into a cabin out in the middle of nowhere. It's lonely on top. So having a little bit of that community is going to be a huge game changer. Yeah, I didn't really come across any more positives on it. I'm sure as soon as I stop this video, I'm going to come up with a whole bunch of it, but not at the moment. So that's what I kind of think about the whole bugging out, bugging in scenario. Definitely on the team of bugging in. I think it is by far the smartest choice. I think by far it is going to have a higher survival rate. So with nothing else to really add to it, I'm going to go ahead and leave it with that. Maybe it gave you something to think about. Maybe you don't care about it, but if you hit the like or dislike or anything like that, leave a comment. That'd be greatly appreciated. So until next time, I will talk to you then. Peace.